Any chance you run in 2028?
Well, I'm not going to rule it out. I mean, that's a long time from now. And I'm most focused on what I can do in the next chapter for the country. I ran for president, million things that I learned from that experience that you can only learn by doing it. It was very much a, fire first, aim later. When getting into the race, there was no way I could have planned and plotted this out as somebody who was coming from the outside. I was 37 years old, came from the business world. So there was a lot that only could learn by actually doing it, and I did. But I care about the same things that led me into the presidential race, and I don't think the issues have been solved. I think that we have a generation that is lost in the country. It's not just young people. I think it's all of us in some ways are hungry for purpose and meaning at a time in our history when the things that used to fill that void in our heart, they're missing. And I think we need a president who both has the right policies for the country, seal the border, grow the economy, stay out of World War III, end rampant crime. Yes, we need the right policies. But we also need leaders who, in a sustained way, revive our national character, revive our sense of pride in this country, revive our identity as Americans. And, I think that need exists as much today as it did when I first ran for president. I don't think it's going to be automatically solved in just a few years. I think Donald Trump is the right person to carry that banner forward for the next 4 years. But after that, we'll see where the country is headed into 2028. And whatever I do, it'll be whatever has a maximal positive impact on the country. I'll also tell you that my laser focus, maybe as distinct from other politicians on both sides, is to take America to the next level, to move beyond our victimhood culture, to restore our culture of excellence. We got to shut down that nanny state, the entitlement state, the regulatory state, the foreign policy nanny state. Shut it down and revive who we really are as Americans. And I'm as passionate about that as ever. But the next step is not running for president. The next step is what happens in the next 4 years. And that's why over the next 4 weeks, I'm focused on doing whatever I can to make sure we succeed in this election.
Well, I hope you run because this was made clear on the stage in the primary debates. You have a unique clarity and honesty in expressing the ideas you stand for. And it would be nice to see that. I would also like to see the same thing on the other side, which would make for some badass, interesting debates.
I would love nothing more than a kick-ass set of top-tier Democrat candidates. After 4 years of Donald Trump, we have a primary filled with actually people who have real visions for the country on both sides. And the people of this country can choose between those competing visions without insult or injury being the way I would love nothing more than to see that in 2028.
Who do you think? So for me, I would love to see in some kind of future where it's you versus somebody like Tim Walz. So to Tim Walz, maybe I'm lacking in knowledge. Is first of all, like a good dude, has similar to you, strongly held, if not radical ideas of how to make progress in this country. So to just be on stage and debate honestly about the ideas that are like there's a tension between those ideas. Is there other people? Shapiro is interesting also.
I would like to take on in an earnest and civil but contested context, right, of a debate. Who do you want to take on? You want to take on somebody who disagrees with you but still has deep ideology of their own. I think John Fetterman's pretty interesting, right? He's demonstrated himself to be somebody who is thoughtful, able to change his mind on positions, but not in some sort of fake flippity-floppity way, but in a thoughtful evolution. Somebody who's been through personal struggles, somebody who I deeply disagree with on a lot of his views and most of his views, but who I can at least say he comes across at least as somebody who has been through that torturous process of really examining your beliefs and convictions and, has, when necessary, been able to preach to his own tribe where he thinks they're wrong. I think it's interesting. I think that you have, a number of other leaders probably emerging at lower levels on the left. Not everybody's going to necessarily come from Washington, D.C. In fact, the longer they're there, the more they in some ways get polluted by it. I think the governor of Colorado is an interesting guy. He's got a more libertarian tendency. I don't know as much about his views on it from a national perspective, but it's intriguing to see somebody who has at least libertarian, freedom-oriented tendencies within the Democratic Party. I think that there are a number of, I don't, foresee him running for president, but I had a debate last year when I was running for president with Ro Khanna, who, say what you will about him, he's a highly intelligent person and is somebody who is at least willing to buck the consensus of his party when necessary. I think he recently, I would say lambasted, he phrased it very delicately, but criticized Kamala Harris's proposed tax on unrealized capital gains. So I like people who are willing to challenge the orthodoxies in their own party because it says they actually have convictions. And so whoever the Democrats put up, I hope it's someone like that. And for my part, I have and continue to have beliefs that will challenge Republicans, that on the face of it may not be the policies that poll on paper as the policies you're supposed to adopt as a Republican candidate. But what a true leader doesn't just tell people what they want to hear. You tell people what they need to hear, and you tell people what your actual convictions are. And this idea that I don't want to create a right-wing entitlement state or a nanny state, I want to shut it down, that challenges the presuppositions of where a lot of the conservative movement is right now. I don't think the bill to cap credit card interest rates is a good idea because that's a price control just like Kamala Harris's price controls, and it'll reduce access to credit. I don't think that we want a crony capitalist state showering private benefits on selected industries that favor us, or that we want to expand the CFPB or the FTC's remit and somehow we're going to trust it because it's under our watch. No, I believe in shutting it down. That challenges a lot of the current direction of the conservative movement. I believe in certain issues that, maybe even outside the scope of what Republicans currently care about right now. One of the things that I oppose, for example, is, this is not a top issue in American politics, but just to give you a sense for, how I think and view the world. I'm against factory farming of a large scale of, you could sort of say putting the mistreatment of, it's one thing to say that you need it for your sustenance, and that's great, but it's another to say that you have to do it in a factory farming setting that gives special exemptions from historical laws that have existed that are the product of crony capitalism. I'm against crony capitalism in all its forms. I'm against the influence of mega money in politics. I don't think that's been good either for Democrats or Republicans. Some of those views, I think, are not necessarily the traditional Republican, orthodoxy reading chapter and verse from what the Republican Party platform has been. It's not against the Republican Party platform, but it's asking what the future of our movement is.
Some of these things are hard, like getting money out of politics.
Getting mega money.
The mega money, yeah.
And so long as it exists, you got to play the game. I mean, if you're going to play to win. I think one of the things I realized is that you just can't compete without it. But you want to win the game in order to change the game. And I think that that's something that I keep in mind as well. So